Welcome everyone. In the last video, we discussed how software engineers can change the world by finding specific problems to solve. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to actually, solve those problems. So if you remember, the last video ended with me using my unique advantage to sort of find these many problems, specifically about 5 problems. These problems were found through my network experience as well as physical location. So these problems are unique to me, but they can still essentially be solved by any of you watching this video if you really want to do it. And I guess the question remains, well, we found them, but how do we exactly solve them? For those of you that don't know me, my name is Bigo. Just a little about myself really quickly before we dive into it. Started as a junior developer, went on to found AB Analytics, 7-figure B2B consulting firm, and that's where I am today. I didn't get this results only for myself, but also for my students as well. So if you want to pause, take a look at everything, you're more than welcome to. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So I decided to focus this video on specifically one singular problem. And the problem that I chose was the custom POS software tailored for vendors at farmers markets. The reason I chose this problem is because I believe this will be the most complicated problem. You'll see why later on, but my thought process is that if I can show you how to tackle the most complicated problem, then you should be able to tackle the easier ones, no problem. So before we actually dive headfirst into creating our solution, we first need to further vet our problem. Now, this is something that people don't usually do, and you'll see why this is an extremely important point. So let's kind of form a checklist of us vetting our problem. Let me put myself over here so you can easily see it. So first and foremost, we want to understand, is the problem that we chose, is it significant? Is it painful? And is it growing? So is it severe enough to demand a solution? And is it becoming more prevalent as time goes on? Next thing we need to answer, is there a sizable market willing to actually pay for a high-priced solution? So there's a large and expanding audience, ideally if we're doing B2C, about over 10,000 people. And if we're doing a business, you can give or take, but at least 1,000 businesses would be a good place to start. That's worldwide I'm speaking. If you're going to do it locally, 100 businesses is more than enough to get started with. And essentially, we need to find a big enough audience to justify premium pricing for it. The third thing we need to answer is, can we create an effective, repeatable solution and compete within a reasonable time frame with the existing competition that exists out there right now, right? So can we address the pain point consistently across clients and realistically challenge the existing solutions in a timely manner? The fourth question, can we easily reach and communicate with our target audience? So can we find and contact those experiencing the pain, speak their language, and possibly leverage channels like social media to actually connect with them and reach out to them? And last but not least, we have our last question, which is, are competitors successfully solving this problem, indicating market viability? So is there anybody else in the space solving this problem, or are we the first ones in it? Are we new to it? Or is the problem that we're choosing to solve kind of an already pre-existing problem and there is competition, meaning that there is money to be made? So let's go ahead and actually vet the problem using the same exact checklist with our POS solution, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm going to answer these questions based on what I've heard. So using my own unique advantage, right? Based on research, my own network experience, and just overall my physical location as well. So is the problem significant, painful, and growing? From what I've seen, yes, definitely is. Vendors need better tools as cashless payments are starting to grow in popularity. Sometime in the near future as well, possibly 10 to 15 years from now, we might even look into cryptocurrency, right? People might purchase everyday goods with cryptocurrency. And is there a sizable market willing to pay for a high price solution? Now, this is actually partly why I also wanted to choose this problem, because the high prices might not actually work. In this specific case, we might not have too high price of a solution, because at the end of the day, while many vendors face this issue, high prices might not work for everybody. Because keep in mind, most of these vendors are farmers, right? They can't afford to pay too high ticket of a solution. This is why this problem is so complicated, but at the same time, it's the perfect example for me to give to you to show you how I'll tackle it myself. Next thing we want to take a look at, can we create an effective, repeatable solution and compete within a reasonable time frame? Yeah, in my opinion, it's very much possible to actually design something smart within a few months, even 1 to 2 months maximum. I can even do it myself, right? I have all the AI tools that I need when it comes to developer tools, so I should be able to do it quite well. Next thing, can you easily reach and communicate with your target audience? 100%. I can go to the farmer markets myself. I can talk to them in person. I can talk to people who shop there. I can reach out to them in social media. They're actually very active on social media. Most of these farmers even have their Instagrams. You send them a DM and they instantly respond to you. And are competitors successfully solving this problem, indicating market viability? Yes, actually, there's others solving it. Square, which is a good example, proving that there's actually demand for POS systems. But what I've seen is that there isn't anybody really specifically targeting farmers markets. So that's where our kind of unique quote unquote advantage comes into play, right? So, okay, now you might think, okay, we've vetted our problem, it's time for takeoff, time to launch. But wait, we're still not done. You see, while we've vetted our problem, what solution are we going to create? Right? We don't have any idea on the solution we're going to create. So what we need to do is we need to research our ideal customer profile further. We still don't know too much about them, do we? All we know is they're facing this specific problem, but we haven't really asked enough questions to understand what type of solution they really want. So let's actually do that. Let's pass the ICP checklist specifically for vendor markets. So who are they? Well, farmers market vendors selling fresh produce, handmade goods, or any artisan products, right? This is basically from what I've seen myself. What do they sell? Depends. Seasonal produce, baked goods, crafts, sometimes even specialty foods directly to customers, right? And what's their biggest pain point? Well, there's a few, but from what I've seen and from what I've heard, handling payments efficiently, tracking sales, and managing inventory while keeping costs low. And how do they currently solve the problem? Well, some use cash, some take actually cash payment, others use basic card readers, others use Square, and some even use manual methods like notebooks, which could actually be quite slow and unreliable. Now, what are their goals? Well, they want to process payments faster, they want to increase their sales, they want to reduce their errors, and they want to offer a seamless customer experience. Small budget, likely about $50 to $20 a month, and it's more so favoring cost-effective and easy-to-use solutions. Where are they located? They're pretty local to me, but there's also regional markets, and it's oftentimes in open air settings with limited connectivity. So it's not like they're in a building with a Wi-Fi, right? And how tech savvy are they? Well, moderate. It really depends. They need simple and intuitive systems with minimal setup and training. Sometimes you'll have the older folks from the farms taking care of the regular just produce stuff, and you'll have the younglings actually taking care of the tech stuff. So once again, really depends. And what's their buying process like? Well, decisions are often made by the vendor themselves, and it's based on the affordability and ease of use. They don't really have a team of C-suite executives or anything of that sort. Where do they spend their time? At markets, mainly in person. I've seen them in online vendor communities, and of course, they're a lot on social media such as Facebook and Instagram, so you can easily reach them out there. Okay, so we got some form of an ICP checklist that we did. So we kind of understand our customer just a tad little bit. So based on what we know so far, I think we can go ahead and kind of give a crack at a solution. Not actually making it yet, but kind of writing down the requirements of what we need from the solution. So let's do that. Let's make sort of a draft, a solution V1, a version 1 of our solution. And basically what I've gathered thus far, this is what it should have at the bare minimum right now, right? So it should have offline functionality because at most places there's no Wi-Fi, there's no essentially connectivity. So the system must essentially process transactions and track sales even without internet connectivity, and it should sync data once actually reconnected. It should have a simple and intuitive UI interface, right? It should be easy to use software requiring minimal training, right? And with big buttons and clear menus for quick navigation. It should be affordable, right? A low monthly subscription, about $50 to $100 a month, or at least a one-time purchase option to fit tight vendor budgets, right? Of course, it should accept multi-payment support, so it accepts cash, credit, debit cards, contactless payments, so Apple Pay, Google Pay, and possibly even QR codes for any digital wallet. And it should have at least some form of basic inventory management, so it would track inventory in real time with alerts for low stock, tailored to small product ranges. It should have some sort of sales reporting, so provide simple daily and weekly sales summaries to help vendors understand trends without overwhelming data. It should be actually customizable for the vendors, so align quick product setup with options for very low pricing. So maybe price per pound, discounts for any bulk purchases, or Black Fridays, whatever the case. And it should also have a mobile app integration for quality of life purposes. It should be paired with a mobile app for smartphones to view sales data, manage inventory, or generate invoices on the go, so they don't need to be near the actual POS system itself constantly. And there should be some form of customer support, so 24/7 live chat or phone support to assist vendors with issues quickly during market hours. And of course, there should be no hidden fees. So transparent pricing with no surprise transaction fees, appealing to vendors wary of high costs. So I think for a draft solution thus far, for kind of a version 1.0 of a solution, this should be good. So what we should do now is once again actually check to see if our solution will hold up. And oftentimes the best way to do this is whenever you're starting a business, most people tend to look at the positive side of things. And the best way to vet it is to look at challenges that might exist with our solution. So let's take a look at the challenges that might exist. Well, first and foremost, our target audience size. So farmers market vendors often operate with very slim margins and are extremely budget conscious, right? And reaching enough vendors willing to adopt and pay for a POS system might require significant outreach efforts. Secondly, pricing constraints. If we charge $50 a month, we're going to need 1,000 paying vendors to hit 50K a month off subscriptions alone, right? So this is going to require a large user base and also a steady customer acquisition process. Then we also need to make sure that we retain our customers, right? Because vendors might cancel subscriptions during any off seasons, creating churn and revenue fluctuations, especially if they're going to be selling fruits and it's going to be seasonal fruits. Then last but not least, competition. So there's already established players like Square, multi-billion-dollar companies, and Clover, who already dominate the small vendor market with user-friendly solutions. So we're going to need some way to overcome all these challenges because while our target customer might actually be in pain, we don't want to create more pain for them, right? We want to solve this pain. And if we're going to give them a solution that in part also creates its own pain on the side, then it might not justify the switch from what they're already using to what we have. So with that, we got to understand as well that some vendors may be extremely hesitant to adopt new technology, right? Especially if they're used to any manual processes or simpler systems. So it's going to be an uphill battle, so to say. Well, now that we know that we have these challenges, what do we need to do? Well, we listed the reasons for why our solution could fail. Now let's make sure that it doesn't by targeting these concerns through understanding our customers better. And how do we do that? Well, we got to research. We got to do more research. So maybe surveys, send out surveys to farmers market associations or directly to the vendors themselves to gather any further insights we can on operations, challenges, and preferences. Conduct one-on-one interviews with them. So whether they're small, medium, or large vendors to understand the pain points on a much deeper level. Observe, go to these actual farmers market ourselves and see the action in person. Take note of any transaction processes, customer interactions, and any bottlenecks that we might sort of see from a third person point of view. And last but not least, study our competitors. Study what solutions competitors like Square or Clover offer to vendors and identify the gaps that we can fill. And of course, social media and forums. So explore Facebook groups, Reddit threads, LinkedIn communities, Instagram posts, whatever the case, anywhere where these farmer market vendors are to see what they're discussing and to see if you can spot a problem they're having. So the way we're going to do this is, once again, going back to our ideal customer profile and doing further research. So the first thing we want to do is find out the demographics. So let's think of the age range. Are the vendors younger entrepreneurs, older farmers, or a mix of both? So sometimes you'll see that younger vendors often pair with some of the older folks. So it might be a family-run business. The younger vendors might be more tech-savvy, whereas the older folks might actually need simpler tools, and they're more so on the sales side itself. And then let's take a look at the business side. So are they sole proprietors? Is it a family-run operation? Or is it larger teams managing multiple stalls, right? Remember, like larger teams may need multi-user systems, whereas solo vendors may prioritize simplicity, right? Second thing, business operations. So what type of products are they actually selling? Is it fresh produce specifically, baked goods, crafts? Are they selling by weight? So do we need systems that can calculate prices dynamically? And do we need to create any specific customizable product catalogs for them, right? This volume itself, so what's their average transaction value and total daily sales? Vendors with higher transaction volumes may prioritize speed and reporting features, right? Seasonality as well. So are their sales consistent year-round or is it seasonal? Seasonal vendors may want flexible pricing plans or the ability to pause subscriptions. Next, actual pain points. We're going to drill further into these pain points. So what tools are they currently using now, if any, and what frustrates them about the already existing tools? So vendors maybe they dislike the high transaction fees, especially if they're doing, let's say, $20,000, $30,000 months, and they have 30% transaction fees or 3.5% transaction fees. That can hurt them down the line, right? Maybe there's limited offline functionality that they don't like, or maybe there's simply lack of inventory management. Whatever the case, you got to do further research to actually understand. Next thing, maybe they might have other operational challenges, such as handling payments, cash versus card, maybe tracking sales and inventory, possibly with generating reports, maybe managing customer interactions, and so on and so forth. And of course, the costs. So are high fees from existing systems, like Square, for example, a barrier for them? Would they prefer the same exact thing, except with slightly less fees, or maybe even something that has less functionality, but with still less fees? Next up, financial capacity. So how much are they actually willing to pay monthly for a solution? So for example, small vendors might find $50 a month reasonable, but they wouldn't necessarily like higher fees. So let's say 30% or 3.5%. They might settle for $50 a month and let's say 2.5%, or even $100 a month and let's say 2.3%, right? And next up, hardware investments. So are they open to actually buying hardware like card readers or printers, right? So thermal printers or card readers, anything of that sort. So now you understand this just opened us up to an entirely new quote unquote business model as well, right? So now we're getting into the physical product game. And this is why I wanted to use this example, because I thought this problem would be the most complicated to solve, because you're starting to see that we both have a SaaS in here as well as a physical product. So let's go further. Next thing, technology usage. So once again, how comfortable are these people with technology? I mentioned before, older vendors may need extremely user-friendly tools, while the younger ones might appreciate advanced features, such as anything with data analytics dashboards, sales reporting, and so on and so forth. Next thing, devices. So do they have smartphones, tablets, or laptops? We need to design the software to work seamlessly across their preferred devices. Next thing, internet access. Do they have reliable internet or do they need offline functionality? Next thing, sales channels. So what's their primary sales locations? Are they mostly in person at farmers markets or do they even do sometimes online sales? Maybe you can even think of an integration with their e-commerce platforms, right? Next thing, customer preferences. So do their customers mainly prefer cash, cards, or digital payments? Because offering diverse payment methods will be crucial, especially if they, let's say, have gift cards or anything of that sort, right? And market preferences. So community engagement. Do they value vendor networking or association recommendations? So potentially partnering with farmers market associations can boost the adoption of our solution, right? And professionalism. How much does their image matter to their customers? For example, a sleek POS system could enhance their professional look. And with that, now what we can do is we can essentially write down a new requirements document for our V2, right? Our solution version 2. And based on what we've seen thus far, now we have a product on top of our SaaS, right? And these are the core features that it should have. So first and foremost, we need hardware and it needs to be portable and durable. Lightweight, battery-powered device that works in outdoor settings without a consistent power supply. We also need, of course, offline functionality. The system must process transactions and track sales even without internet connectivity, syncing data once we're connected. It needs to be simple and intuitive interface, right? Easy to use software requiring minimal training with big buttons and clear menus. Pricing needs to be affordable, possibly a low monthly subscription, $50 to $100 a month, or a one-time purchase option to fit tight vendor budgets, and possibly less of a transaction fee than maybe the competitors. And then, of course, next one, multi-payment support. So cash, credit, debit, contactless payments, QR codes, inventory management. We want to track inventory in real time with alerts for low stock, tailored to small product ranges, sales reporting, right? Customizable for vendors if they want to do any specific catalogs or price per pound or any specific discounts. We need to make sure that the hardware itself is rugged and waterproof. So it's designed to withstand outdoor conditions such as rain, dust, and heat, which is common in farmers markets. We also need to pair it with a mobile app, right? In this case, most people will be using smartphones. They need to be able to use their smartphones to view sales data, manage inventory, or generate invoices on the go. There also needs to be 24/7 customer support so that if they face any issues, they can instantly reach out and we can provide help. And last but not least, there needs to be no hidden fees. If we're going to do even any transaction fees or whatever the case, we need to be upfront with it. So this would be essentially the core features now. If you remember, now this turned into a SaaS as well as a product-based business. So let's take a look at now what's essentially different from not only our competitors, but from the V1 of the solution that we made. Well, first and foremost, unlike many of the existing solutions, our system will be able to operate fully offline and will be able to sync data later, eliminating the reliance on internet connectivity. Second thing, we'll be able to offer dynamic pricing for produce vendors. So we'll be able to have integration with scales for weight-based pricing, right? Which is something actually most generic PO systems don't even have. They don't have a scale system. Next thing, we'll be able to offer seasonal flexibility. So we'll be able to offer a subscription such that they can pause and resume to accommodate vendors with non-year-round businesses. Last but not least, we'll be able to tailor our hardware for outdoor conditions. So it'll be weatherproof hardware. It will have a long battery life, and it will be specifically designed for farmers market environments. And the way we would implement this is we would have a basic and a pro plan. So since we did consider there's small farmers market vendors, medium and big, we would have the small and medium kind of go with the basic kit. This would be a regular POS terminal with just a portable card reader, right? Whereas the bigger guys would use up the Pro Kit. So this would add a scale integration alongside weatherproof carrying case. And since some of the big guys will even have online stores, we can even offer an e-commerce integration with the software itself, right? So there's a lot we can do with this. But what I want you to get out of this isn't necessarily what we're doing line by line, but more so the process that I'm taking into finding the solutions. Now, I did this in a day, so this is by no means perfect, But you would understand that if I had, let's say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks to plan this out, I would have the most ideal solution and I could get started on it, right? Next thing, when it comes to sales and onboarding, so I would need to partner with farmers market associations to demo the product directly at the markets, right? And I would offer free trials or discounts for early adopters to build trust. So possibly even give them a discount on the hardware itself if they're, let's say, one of the first 100 customers. And I would try to collaborate with influencers, specifically in the organic health niche, right? And those who specifically buy from farmer market spaces to showcase the system in use for other vendors to see. And the way that it would work in terms of my revenue model, this is how I would plan it out, right? So since I know most can't afford too crazy of a subscription fee, I would lower my subscription to 50 for the basic guys and then $100 a month for the pro guys. And the competitors right now, from what I saw, Square has about 2.75%. It goes all the way up to 3.5% transaction fee. Clover, once again, around 3%. So I'll lower my transaction fee actually. I'll do 2.5% for the basic and I'll do 2% for the pro, right? And I'll even offer the hardware as an add-on itself, kind of like a bonus, a one-time purchase. The basic will cost $500, the pro will cost $750. And these ones I specifically tailored it based on Alibaba. So I just went on Alibaba, I searched for POS systems. I saw one without scale was around in the 100 to 200 range. I saw ones with a scale were around in the 200 to 300 range. So this would at least be 2 or 3x my ROI in terms of the kit itself. Last but not least, I would have custom add-ons, so specifically tailored for each specific vendor. So any loyalty program integrations, right? Any extra reporting features they might need, whatever the case. And of course, I would offer maintenance or premium customer support plans as well if they wanted. So now, if we take a look at this revenue model, I mean, once again, by no means perfect, but at least we have a starting point, right? You saw how we started with a problem, vetted it, came up with a solution, or drafted the solution, made sure that we vetted the solution, figured out why our solution will fail, right? Taking a look at maybe other people who tried to do it, why they failed, essentially looking at the opposite. Instead of why it will be good, we look at why it will be bad. So why our solution will fail. And then based on those, we build up a new solution to kind of plug those holes, plug those leaks. And then we now have our new solution. And we try to do at least some form of revenue model to see how it would function. And then let's do some financial projections to see how it would look like. So if we have, let's say, 100 customers, which is, once again, the example I'm going to give you here is going to be bare bones, right? So it's going to be extremely easy within a year time frame to get 100 customers, especially 100 vendors to use your POS system, right? So for the pro plan, which is going to be $100 a month, with 100 customers, that's $10K a month, right? Basic plan, we only need 200 customers for the $50 a month. So that's also $10K a month. So from our pro and basic, we'll now have $20K a month and we'll only have 300 customers, which for a POS system, once again, extremely doable. Then it will be our hardware sales. So let's assume 50% of our customers will also purchase our hardware. And if we're selling, let's say, the pro for $750 a unit and then the basic for $500 a unit, we'll have $37,500 for the pro made and then for $50K for the basic. So total hardware revenue will be $87,500. And then if we do an annual revenue projection, so we'll have $240,000 that come from our subscription revenue in a year, and then $87,500 one-time payment from the hardware sales. So total revenue for year one will be $327,500, which is the addition of the recurring subscription plus the hardware sales, plus the actual transaction fees that we calculated. And in this case, I'm assuming that on a monthly basis, these vendors are only doing $2,924, okay? This is a joke, okay? Most of these vendors, especially where I'm located in Southern California, they're doing 20K, 30K a month, okay? So you can see I'm taking 10% of that. So I'm doing an extremely conservative approach just to show you how much money you can actually make with this, right? Once again, keep in mind, all the numbers I'm using here are extremely conservative, right? You yourself looking at this might not think so, but trust me, I'm speaking from experience. These numbers are quite conservative for 1 year, right? So we'll have 100 of the Pro Plan users, right? Essentially making, let's say, $2,924 on average a month, right? And then we're going to take 2% of that. Since they're on a Pro Plan, they get 2% transaction fee. And then we're going to multiply that by 12, right? For the entire year. We're going to do the same for our basic plan members, 200 members making $2,924 a month, right? And their transaction fee is 2.5%, right? 0.5% more. Once again, over the course of 12 months. So this means that for our total revenue for year one is going to be $573,116. So this means that In terms of our profit margins, our only real cost is going to be our hardware, getting our hardware, right? And in terms of our actual making the plan itself. So we'll have very low software costs, but most of the actual cost we should have gone to a software developer. We don't need to do that because we can do it ourselves using AI as well, right? But this should still give you a very conservative estimate on how much this solution would bring in a year, right? Of course, once again, this isn't concrete. I did this within a day. But if I had, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks to plan this out, I would have proper financial projections with my revenue, with my costs, my overhead, everything calculated alongside my financial projections. And I would also spend a lot more time on the solution itself, right? I would really spend at least 2 weeks talking with my customers and understanding their pain points to make sure that the solution I'm going to offer is going to be quite unique, right? It's going to be exactly what they're looking for. But once again, this should give you at least some confidence with understanding the business process as a whole, right? You found the problem, this is how you would go about the solution, right? Once again, to kind of go back to the steps, we have a problem, we vet the problem to make sure it's a good problem. Once we actually vetted it, we'll come up with kind of like a requirements document as to what we need for our solution, right? Based on that requirements document, we'll take a look at why it wouldn't work. So we'll take a look at the reasons why it wouldn't work, and we'll take a look at if anybody else has tried to do what we have done and why they have failed, right? And then based on the feedback that we gather, we'll go back to our audience, essentially quiz them more on exactly what we found specifically, and then create a new solution, kind of a new requirements document encompassing everything that we might have missed the first time around, right? And then our solution V2 should be at least close to ideal. But of course, we'll do this as many times as we need to. Solution V3, V4, V5, whatever the case, right? And after everything is done, in the next video, we're going to be talking about how do we actually monetize our solution such that we can make the money that you see over here. As always, thank you for watching, and please let me know in the comments if this video was helpful.